Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Emma's Electronic Dance Managers Meetup #1. It's really great to see so many of you here. My name is Michelle Ronquillo, and I am Emma's event manager. Just a little bit about us. Within Emma, we unite music managers organizations across 13 European countries, which represent more than 2,000 managers across Europe. We've made it our mission to strengthen European managers globally through our Empower program. It's our mission to do this through the Empower program, which encompasses education, advocacy, networking, and research. If you want to know more, follow us on social media, connect with us on the WhatsApp group, and also subscribe to our mailing list. I will put the links in the chat in a little bit. Also within the chat, you will find general managers contact list where you can leave your contact details, check that everything is up to date, and find the details of others. Also, when you log off Zoom at the end of the session, a super brief survey will pop up. Please take a moment to fill it out, as your feedback is super important for us and to improve our upcoming events. I'm going to share the agenda of today. Please bear with me. Let me know if you see the agenda. Super. So today we are welcoming Ralf Kollmann and Eric Horstmann. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we are diving into the Dolby Atmos immersive studio world. Without further ado, please a warm welcome to Ralf and Eric. And also, there will be some time for you to ask some questions at the end of the conversation. Let me just get back to you. Ralf, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having us. My name is Ralf Kollmann. I'm running Mobilee Records, music label focused on electronic music. We founded this like now almost 20 years ago, based in Berlin. And beside running a music label, I'm also managing artists like Rodriguez Jr. And a few others. So yeah, a few years ago, I met this guy, and I had the opportunity to learn or to dive deeper into the world of immersive audio. But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Dolby Atmos, immersive audio, how to connect this with your artists, with labels, licensing, and so on. And yeah, that's my little introduction.
Thank you so much, Ralf. Eric, please tell us about you.
My name is Eric. I run a studio in Berlin called Immersive Lab, and I would say I'm one of the pioneers in Germany and in Europe when it comes to Dolby Atmos production. A very long track record in that format. Originally I'm a sound engineer, a traditional sound engineer. Was working in film post-production for many, many years, and during that time in 2012, I was lucky enough to lead the construction of the first German Dolby Atmos mixing studio in 2012. And so now, 12 years later, I'm still connected to that format, gained a lot of experience. And 5 years ago, I started Immersive Lab because I saw the increasing need for Dolby Atmos production, and especially music, because the format has done a couple of iteration and developments throughout different tiers, from cinema to home cinema, now to music and a broadcast and gaming. And yeah, that's what I do now. I have done more than 750 songs in Dolby Atmos. Wow. A lot of electronic music, of course. That's also the link that we both share, but it's also all kind of pop music and urban rap, hip hop, you name it. So I'm very open for genres. Yeah. And we are now coming here from Berlin, from the Immersive Lab studio.
Right. Thank you so much. And yeah, just please take us with you.
All right.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's a great pleasure for us to have the chance to share our ideas, knowledge, experience with you tonight. The reason why I wanted to speak about, like, this new format, this new technology, is that as a label owner and artist manager myself, I was, of course, after like so many years now in streaming, so we are coming from vinyl to CD, to downloads, and then in a way we ended up in streaming a few years ago. And also most of the artists and music labels felt like, it's not really the best deal for us. So how it's like, how it was put together, let's say. We were forced into something, and so in terms of the revenue and that artists get from a stream and so on. So we are probably, most of us are not really happy with this, but that's a different topic that gets discussed a lot all the time. So, and then, yeah, at one point, streaming, what's the next thing? What's coming now? Is this like now there forever? Is that like the only channel and platform for us to distribute and monetize our music? Yes, it will be most probably for the next 10, 15 years. Or maybe not. But that's also something we are touching later, because the metaverse is around the corner. But yeah, so when I realized that Dolby Atmos is a new format establishing, I thought, okay, this could be like the next big thing for us. And we tried, we created the first Dolby Atmos products even before Apple Music adopted this. So I was just like very, very keen and interested and curious to work with this new format, because I saw so many potential, not only for music labels, also for the artists, and for the consumer. So everybody can benefit from this, from a creative aspect, and especially from a quality aspect. So, and then on top, like the first DSPs who picked or who adopted this were Tidal and Amazon HD. And of course, they all had subscription models, so there were no opportunity to listen to music for free on Tidal, for example. And then the same with Apple Music. And of course, when we started to work with Dolby Atmos, we knew that Apple Music will pick that up next. And that happened. And now we benefit significantly from a pretty large catalog in Dolby Atmos. We benefit from a better monetization. We benefit from a much better features and placements on Apple Music. And that's why I would like to discuss this, because I think there's a big opportunity for everybody, and especially the independent culture overslept that a little bit in the past 2-3 years. The major industry jumped on it straight away. Of course, there's a strong connection between Apple Music and Universal and BMG and Sony and so on. They were the first. They wanted to get on board to create content, and they also have the budgets to do that. But I think there are also smart ways to motivate artists, your artists you're working with, or the labels you're working with, to try out this new format and to benefit from this from this new technology. And that's like, just to sum up where we are coming from. So we are not paid by Dolby Atmos or anything. So like the insights we are sharing here is just because we are convinced by this, that this can be a game changer and kind of like shaking up the streaming market a little bit. And so in general, we have a very big problem with quality out there, in all pop cultural sectors, and with curation. And there is like so much mediocrity out there, and there's so much music out there, and that's like probably one of our biggest challenges these days. If you release a new talent, if you release a new EP or new album, it's so difficult to get heard, and to get through this noise with your product. And with releasing your music in Dolby Atmos, you're also making a statement for quality, for a new listening experience, and I think that's very important these days. So yeah, maybe you can tell a little bit more about like Dolby Atmos, the technology behind it, and what the format is about.
So in a nutshell, Dolby Atmos is an immersive 3D audio sound format that originates from cinemas, as I already said. I see a very big benefit of this format because it's not replacing stereo, and I think this is one of the biggest questions I always get. Will Dolby Atmos replace stereo? Hopefully not. It's working along the regular stereo distribution that we all know, especially in electronic music. The path into the club is very important, and this will stay stereo or some other immersive format that we might be able to touch base a bit later. But in a nutshell, Dolby Atmos is a 3D sound format that lets you kind of bring the audience right into your little music piece. And it is very accessible because you can listen to Dolby Atmos on headphones, on smart speakers, in cars, which is the latest big thing now. Mercedes, Volvo, Lucid, BYD, many different car manufacturers now have options to have a Dolby Atmos sound system built in the car. And then, of course, cinemas, studios, home cinemas, there's plenty of gear out there that is capable of playing back content in Dolby Atmos. So accessibility is there, and we can reach billions of people with that format. What makes it special compared to stereo is, as you already touched base on the quality aspect. And I would even go that far to say that dynamic range is also a criteria of quality, because we are all living in a loudness war. Every song needs to be squashed to the minimum kind of dynamic range to be louder than the competition on all channels, which is not the case with Dolby Atmos, because we do have an extended dynamic range available. So if you want to put it very simplified, music can start to breathe again. And the little kids listening to the music like this all the time can actually experience something that is called dynamics again. So this is something new for them, and I think it's a huge benefit. And then, yeah, I mean, I think there's already a question coming for Elisa. I'll touch base on this in a second. But the workflow of creating a Dolby Atmos mix compared to stereo is actually not that much different. Of course, it requires a little bit of different studio environment, technical studio environment. The studio that I'm running right now has 14 speakers instead of 2. That's probably the biggest difference. But all the software tools that are out there, all the creative technologies that are around, like digital audio workstations, instruments, anything can be reused for that format the same way. And so there's no downside actually in producing Dolby Atmos content. But yeah, I would always recommend to monitor it in a certified environment to really understand what's going on in that piece.
The biggest challenge that we faced in the beginning when we started to approach our artists to work with this format, to listen to it, to try it out, is that so like the whole industry is set up in stereo, let's say, you know, like in the past 30-40 years, everybody is just like everybody has a stereo mindset when it comes to music production, music mastering, and so on. And this is now like, so this now needs a new way of thinking, you know, to adapt to this new workflows. But once an artist tried it and experienced like the outcome and the quality of this music, it's a complete new experience. We have been here with artists, and they felt like, wow, I'm finally like, it feels like I'm inside my music right now, you know. So stereo is like a limitation most of the time, you know. In the mastering process, you are cutting off frequencies and so on, and sounds and instruments are overlapping. And now you finally have how many 128 channels available where you can play sounds and vocals and instruments, and that's a complete new world for every producer who's trying this for the first time.
And one thing I would also think is that Dolby Atmos and other immersive sound formats teach you to listen consciously to music again. So we live in very fast times. I mean, wherever you go, you have some speaker left and right, on the airport, in the taxi, on the phone, everywhere you are kind of polluted with sound, more or less. And immersive sound formats help you basically to resync and spend a bit more like conscious time in listening to something very carefully. I mean, back in the days, and I mean, many vinyl lovers around us do that same thing, like every Saturday evening, you know, open a bottle of wine, a good bottle of wine, put on a vinyl disc, and then listen to the recording very carefully, consciously. And I think Dolby Atmos and other immersive formats can help to do this as well. And as you said, the artists that we work with listen to their own music in Dolby Atmos, and they rediscover elements that they didn't know that were still in there. So I did the last Moderat album, The More Data, and the band was in the studio, and we listened to the album 3 times in a row, which is very unique. Normally it's if I'm lucky, then I can have them for half an hour, but after 2.5 hours they didn't want to leave. And Shari, one of the guys, he told me that I was able to do something that they were trying to achieve, but they couldn't manage, is actually dynamics. You know, having the difference between very loud and very low volume to kind of really kind of engage with the audience pretty drastically, and yeah, rediscover their own music. And they rediscovered their own music. That was a very interesting comment.
So since we're speaking to music managers here today, I think the most important is to touch the opportunities and the benefits of this format. So also like looking into the like doing a future outlook. So what's coming next? And so what we mentioned before, like the quality aspect, is very important to also educate maybe a new generation of consumers, of listeners. I think the kids, let's say, they grew up with like very low compressed music. Most of them experience music for their first time through Spotify, and it's not a secret that Spotify is the lowest audio quality so EACEA you can listen music to at the moment, you know. And Dolby Atmos and also lossless at the same time, that's available on Apple Music and Tidal and Amazon HD and a few other DSPs as well, is just a new listening experience. And if you do an A/B comparison, you know, between, let's say, Spotify, and then maybe try an Apple Music or Tidal account for 30 days for free, you know, you don't want to go back. And that's one of my main motivations to support this format and to also to promote it, because I think once the audience realizes the difference, the better listening experience, they are ready to spend a little money for a subscription on Apple Music. And that is bringing so much money again to the artist at the end. So at the moment we have a market share, I think, of around 70% in the streaming owned by Spotify, and the rest divided by Apple Music and all the others. If we just manage in the next few years to shift some of this market shares, or like just like a few 100,000 million subscribers to Apple Music, this will be a significant positive change in monetization for artists and labels. So that's one aspect. And the other thing is, if you look into, Eric mentioned it already, like new car hi-fi systems are supporting Dolby Atmos. So it's a new listening situation that gets created. So in the near future, we're gonna see bands and artists performing live on stage in immersive audio and Dolby Atmos, most probably. So it's possible already today, but I think it's a matter of a year or two when this is and then it's like getting more easier and accessible for everybody. Maybe 3 years by now.
I was just saying maybe it's not necessarily Dolby Atmos, but there are other
Yeah.
interesting immersive audio formats, and the one is already mentioned here in the chat is from L Acoustics. It's the EACEA system.
But it's going to be based on Dolby Atmos most of the time, and that's another argument for us. Also speaking with the artists, once you have a Dolby Atmos mix available of your music, you actually have the groundwork that you can use to prepare your live sets at one point and so on.
Your immersive live sets, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then another very interesting aspect that also just popped up recently is like the opportunity to license Dolby Atmos music to the metaverse, because like all metaverse applications are based on 3D virtual reality. The new Apple Vision gadget is coming out soon, and there are they need this kind of content. It doesn't make sense to add a stereo sound to this applications and into this virtual reality that's going to be rolled out soon. So I think if you are a pioneer now, so you can, if you hurry up, you can still be a pioneer in this format. There are a lot of opportunities waiting for you. That's.
And overall, the catalog, I mean, the lifespan of a catalog is not 5 or 10 years. It's actually like 50 years. I mean, we see recordings from the Beatles from 1969 now being redone in Dolby Atmos, Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper's, and so on. So, and for the Beatles, we can actually be very grateful that at the time when they switched from mono to stereo, that they took the challenge and went for stereo, which was crazy immersive at that time. And when you listen to trumpets and horns on one side and the drums and John Lennon on the other side, so it is kind of an immersive feel, or it feels like immersive. And we're at I don't want to say that maybe we're on a similar step, like from mono to stereo, like we're now from stereo to something else, to immersive. And I often get the question, hey, headphones, I'm not super happy with the presentation of a Dolby Atmos mix on headphone. Is that really worth doing an Atmos mix now? Shall I wait another 2, 3, 4 years? My main argument is let's do it now, as long as the project is open. And the headphone reproduction systems technically can only get better. And there has been already a huge improvement of the sound quality of Apple Music since they launched with Dolby Atmos until today. I remember I was one of the big shitstormers basically against Apple when they launched the service, because the mix that was presented in the beginning in June 21 has had nothing to do with the mixes that we did at that time. So something happened in the algorithm. Long story short, the reproduction systems will get better if we like it or not, but it will go very steep. And as we would say in Germany, let's eat the soup. Let's eat the soup while it's hot. We're working on it right now. So the question is, do you always go back to your project 5 years later, open the backup? It's definitely more costly when you do that 5 years later than if you do it right now when everything is up and running right now. That's my main argument. And then next thing, because you already touched base on this, doing a Dolby Atmos version for the streaming services and for the playlists, because costs is something that is very crucial to many of us, to the producers, to the artists, and also to independent labels. A Dolby Atmos version doesn't necessarily live on Apple Music only for 4 weeks. We have, as you said, I mean, we can use a Dolby Atmos version as a base version to use that then for live environments, but also for other things, like you said, the metaverse, but also going a bit further, like maybe even licensing it out in the sync range, for picture, for television, for movie kind of thing. When you present a Dolby Atmos version, this can definitely be beneficial to get picked for these kind of projects.
Yep. I mean, I mentioned earlier that we kind of overslapped this new format a little bit, and I think we could be in a better position right now if more artists, more labels, more managements would have picked up this topic, because it's also a matter of experience, you know. So and we are at a stage where we are still like learning a lot and experimenting a lot, and everybody needs to create their own workflows to handle this new format and to also make it more cost efficient, because that's definitely one of the one of the challenges these days. So we are for our budgets are um, so mainly marketing, mastering, graphic design, cover design, and so on, and that's already difficult for most of us to recoup. And now we need to add Dolby Atmos mixing costs, which can also be something between like 253 400 euro per track, you know, and then depending on the deal that you get for an album, it's that's a significant cost factor. um and I can understand, and I know it, but from myself, it's like very difficult to cover this for a production. um, on the other hand, the more artists get involved and familiar with this format, and maybe can also pre-produce and prepare the Dolby Atmos mixes by themselves, and then maybe just get it finalized, finished by an authorized mixing engineers. This can maybe also lower the costs at the end and make it then available for more artists. So, and this is something that's an educational question here. You know, we really need to talk about this new opportunities here with our artists, and present the opportunities. Um, what's that? Yeah.
I can pick up this question
Also,
when you're done.
so, and then also what Eric said, and that's also something that made me thinking completely new in the past 1-2 years, is the lifespan of your catalog. You know, I think we were always like thinking about like this recoupment periods of 1, 2, 3 years, but I think we need to be aware of the lifelong plus 70 years copyright that we own, that the artist owns, you know, that a label owns for a while, you know, sometimes also forever, depending on the contracts, you know. But let's keep it like management and artist base. You know, you own this music for so long that even after you died, your kids can still um, get some money on a monthly or quarterly base, yeah, in theory at least. So and I think that's something that we also need to consider when it comes to. I think that's a general problem, that most of the music gets released without proper promotion and marketing. You know, the market is over flooded with music, but make it right. You know, put a proper production behind it, put a proper marketing campaign behind it, and then yeah, if it's good music, you're gonna recoup and make money with it. You know, so yeah, that's my thought.
One thing we haven't talked about it is actually also the creative possibilities. I mean, we talk a lot about tech facts and business approaches, which is all perfect and it's all good, but creative possibilities of creating such a version is something that we should not leave aside, because when you compose a song, or when you're an artist is producing a song, and when this artist is working in an Atmos enabled environment like this one or other studios, the way how they produce is going to be very different. Different, not meaning a bad, definitely, I mean, in my opinion, to the better, because you start to fill the room with elements and sounds and ear candies that you probably would not produce and compose when you work in a stereo environment. Because in stereo, I mean, I put it drastically, we're not talking about mixing, we're talking about reduction. It's about just reducing elements as much as possible to make other things audible. Like a vocal track needs the vocals very shiny there, but that requires to get the guitars and the synth and the strings out of the way to make the vocals sound good and be presented in a proper way. When we talk about immersive audio and Dolby Atmos, we don't have these masking issues in the same way than when we work in stereo, because we just have tons of space available where we can play with it and use it. And all artists that we work with who get introduced into that format instantly have ideas. Oh, next time I could do this, and maybe I have an element that could go there. So it's actually even start to shape like psychologically in every artist's mind, and they start to rethink their workflow. They start to go back to their original sounds and try to reshape it and make it work. And I mean, creatively, this can have a big impact as well. Question if they release an Atmos or not is second, but the experience that they have in the moment in such an environment can have a very big effect.
And that's what I mean with, like, we are still experimenting with this, and we need to learn how to work and how to deal with this new format. Because like, if artists are also adding something and creating something new and have new ideas how to utilize this format for their music, this is also then improving the listening experience again for the audience, you know. So I can't wait to hear and see the music market or the streaming market, especially how it looks like in 1 or 2 or 3 years from now. Because like, one important thing you need to keep in mind is that Spotify is most probably following sooner or later. Yeah. So
Hopefully,
I think there's no way around. And that's why I also think it's important to use this time right now to work with this new format, make your experiences, build a catalog if possible, and be ready for this big next step. Because if you are one of the, let's say, few labels or few artists who already have a Dolby Atmos catalog available, you can imagine the impact that it has on Spotify, for example, once they adopt this format in one way or the other. Maybe they call it differently, but I think it's gonna come.
Cross fingers, cross fingers. But we had a good chance with Mobilee when Apple Music launched, that we had a good starting catalog ready. So when the service launched, we had something to present on the platform.
And that's a very important example, by the way. So we just released really, like, let's say, underground electronic music, and it got picked up on the mainstream pop playlists on Apple Music, only because we delivered it in Dolby Atmos. So it was great to see our, let's say, independent underground music among all this, like, top R&B pop stars on this, like, new release Friday playlist. So yeah.
Shall I start to pick up some of the questions in the chat? And the first one actually that I see has been around the comparison of Dolby Atmos to a system from L Acoustics called EACEA. So the EACEA system is a live sound immersive audio system that is used in live environments, being it on concerts, on stages, but also in theaters and experiences like art exhibitions and things like that. It's very difficult to compare because the use case is very different. So Dolby Atmos is like a sweet spot centric immersive audio format that is like for a personalized experience, like for you in your car, in your headphone, in the studio, in the cinema, where you're not moving, you know, everything is tailored to a certain listening area. EACEA is made for experiences where people move around, big stages, non kind of standard speaker layouts. So you might go into a venue where you have 35 speakers. The next EACEA venue might have 64 speakers, or when you go to Wonder Fruit in Thailand, where the polygon system is set up, they have 96 speakers, EACEA. So, but the good thing is, others probably also do have, but I have a workflow that lets me kind of use my Dolby Atmos mix and rework it so it fits an EACEA system. And that's something we're doing with a couple of artists now to make them basically immersive live ready. but the biggest change behind that is a change of mindset for the artist to understand what is stems, what is multiple outputs of their playback system. Not everything is squashed into a stereo pad. So that's probably the biggest difference.
But also, like, harmonizing all of this is also part of our mission for the next future. Because I always compare it with like what we had in the video system in the 80s. There was VHS, Beta, and Video 2000. And at the end, like so the competition was won by the one who had the most content. Yeah. So, and I think it's obvious that Dolby Atmos is the biggest player in this business. So
for streaming and like personalized experience, but not for live sound. That's
but the question is like how it would make sense to kind of like connect. So what you're doing manually right now,
of course,
to have this like just connected in a better way. So for easy workflows, probably it's going to be in everybody's benefit. And it's also like a question of like technological harmony at the end, or like how
exchange, handshake. I don't know how you call it in English. But anyways, but just to be super complete and not confuse anybody, I mean, there are Dolby Atmos live stages available, but they're not that many than like with EACEA or with Space Mac Pro from Maya Sound or DNB Soundscape or Spat Revolution. You see, there are tons of different live sound formats that are available. But the groundwork to basically feed them all can be a Dolby Atmos version that we create in a near field environment that has the benefit of being used in streaming, but can be reused in live environments one way or another.
Should we pick up this question about like affordable ways?
Yes, affordable way of creating or working in this format. I mean, the most affordable way, actually, if you want to create something in Dolby Atmos, is get a pair of headphones and get an Apple computer and use Logic Pro, because basically the whole Dolby Atmos brain and engine and ecosystem is built into Logic, and it's also built into Pro Tools now. It's built into Studio One. It's built into Cubase and Window, and but not Ableton, unfortunately. And especially where we work a lot in electronic music, people tend to use a lot of Ableton, but there's third-party software available, so you can create Dolby Atmos by using any kind of headphone. Doesn't matter which one you use. But if you create something on headphones, please go into a studio and listen to it on speakers before you release it. The audience will pick it and will definitely hear the difference on the streaming service if it's an headphone only mix. And I can listen to it 2 seconds and I know exactly this has been a headphone mix only. And the quality, please help us to keep the quality up. And go into a studio and listen on speakers.
So the main cost factor is, of course, to set up a professional Dolby Atmos listening studio. Yeah, that's something that probably only professional businesses can afford. And everybody can also do his own stereo master at home these days, but it's not comparable to a professional mastering studio with like 20 years of experience, and that's the same thing with the Dolby Atmos mixes, of course. So that's how I would put it. So exactly. Like the easiest way, let's say, is hiring a mixing engineer. If you are if you are capable of spending, I don't know, depends on, let's say between 300 and 400 euro per track. If you have a partnership with a mixing engineer and studio, you can probably get better deals and so on. If you improve and optimize workflows, it might get cheaper. And as mentioned before, if an artist or producer already maybe prepares the Dolby Atmos mix setup and hands it over to a mixing engineer, it can also make everything more affordable. But at the end, if you really want to have like this high quality, it needs to be finalized or finished in a special environment, which is a studio.
Certified environment, I would say so. Here's a question for you, Ralf. When releasing music, would you then simply add a dynamic spatial version and the distributor adds it to the correct DSPs? Any tips of pitching, ensuring the track is listened? A bit above, somebody was stating that you can repitch it like 2 weeks after the release? I
Yeah.
haven't heard about this.
No, it's a
Yeah.
very interesting question, because that's you know, so in the beginning there wasn't really like a delivery process, like a learned delivery process by the distribution companies. So we had to go through Dolby Atmos directly through the US office and so on. That's now much better. Like the big distributors, they know how to handle this format, and usually it is like standard stereos delivery and setup, metadata, blah 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 blah. And at the moment, we just then share the Dolby Atmos file, EDM file, which can be like easily between 3-4 gigabyte per track, by the way. So it's a lot of data that needs to be processed. We send it to our distributor, and they connect it to the stereo format, because it is like going hand in hand. Dolby Atmos file needs to be like 100% exactly the same length like the stereo file. These days, it's like about milliseconds. Because because it's like when what's happening in the background, so the Apple Music or Tidal or whoever actually automatically detects where are you listening your music right now, so what gadget are you using right now, and then it's switching, between stereo and Dolby Atmos. So yeah, this is like connected. And about the pitching part is also the same as usual. The pitching team is just adding the information that this is also available in Dolby Atmos, and that is a huge argument for the curators to push, feature, playlist this song these days, especially on Apple Music. It's it's all brand new also for us now to see the revenues, because like so from January on, Apple Music increased the payout for Dolby Atmos deliveries by 10%, beside the better visibility on the platform and featuring. And it's also very interesting for us to see like what that means at the end, how is this increasing our revenues. The good thing is that once you deliver your product in Dolby Atmos, even the stereo plays are getting the better monetization.
I think that's a very important.
Thank you so much. We have time for one more question.
Which one you want to pick? There are a couple of questions. One is very quick. One is very easy to answer.
Yes.
It's the question about courses relevant for the artist.
Yeah.
I want to work in that format. I would recommend that you check the Dolby website, dolby.com. There is a music creation division where you have also tutorials, learning videos, all kind of documents for people who want to get started. A question about how many loudspeakers you would need. So the minimum setup for Dolby Atmos is 5.1.2, which means you have 5.5 speakers around you, 1 subwoofer and 2 ceiling speakers. If you want to create if you want to do commercial work for major labels like Universal, but also for streaming services like Netflix, you have to have a 7.1.4 speaker layout. That means you have 7 speakers around you, 1 subwoofer, and then 4 ceiling speakers or more. So that's the minimum recommendation.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you so much, Ralf and Eric. Super interesting. I can't wait to discover this whole new world as a electronic music lover. I can't wait.
Is there a Dolby Atmos studio in Barcelona?
Oh, I'm sure there is, yeah.
If you know, please let me know, and I will go and knock on the door.
Latest for Sonar, probably the Dolby guys will set up something there as well. So
we'll see. I'll ask. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your knowledge, and this has been a really helpful for our managers. And I'm gonna just thank you so much once again.